also he was given the ability to bend some of the metals with his bare hands. Dawood alayhi salam, as I mentioned to you before, was given the ability to control iron in his hand. Sulayman alayhi salam was given the ability to control with his hand brass. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make brass melt in his hands, and he would form it in any way he wants. Sulayman was an amazing king, an amazing prophet. And he had a special love to horses. That was one of his character. He loved horses. Those who deal with horses tell me that when you deal with horses, you fall in love. You cannot avoid it. It becomes a passion. That's what happened to Sulayman alayhi salam. He loved horses so much. And his horses were the best horses ever. The name given to them in the Quran, As-Safinat, Al-Jiyad. This is to show what kind of horses. These horses, they would stand on 3 legs, raising the fourth, leaving the tip of the fourth on the ground. This is their usual stand. This is not a special stand for them. This is their usual stand. These were the best types of horses. So he fell in love with these horses. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, to Dawood we gave Sulayman for a son. How excellent in our service ever did he turn to us. Behold, there were brought before him in the evening a group of the highest breeding and swift of horses. What is the story of these horses? Some stories in history books tells us that he had a huge number of horses. Some exaggerate to the level that he had 20,000 horses of this type. And Sulayman would inspect them, and Sulayman would race them, etc. So one day, when he was examining them and he was racing them, he continued to do that he missed his late afternoon prayers until the sun set. So reading Al-Zabur, the Psalms, the book of his father, was part of his worship. But his passion with these horses distracted him until the sun set without him feeling it. Then he realized that it's already sunset and he did not do his prayers. So he said, and this is in the Quran, truly do I love the love of good things, these horses, with the view to the glory of my God, until the sun has hidden in the veil. Sunset. Bring them back to me. Bring the horses back to me. And the Quran says, فَطَفِقَ مَسْحًا. He started to wipe them. He began to wipe or pass his hand over their legs and their necks. What does it mean? There are 2 major interpretations to this, equally correct. One interpretation is that he took his sword and struck the feet and the neck of these horses. This became an obsession to me, and I don't want this anymore, and the only way to stop the obsession is to get rid of it. That is one narration or one explanation. But the other interpretation is that he actually wiped them, asking Allah for forgiveness. You gave me this from you. I belong to you. Please forgive me. I will not do it again. And he repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he wiped them, cleaned them, and he said, prepare them to fight for the cause of Allah. Both narrations are present in explanation books of the Quran, and both may be true. We do not know exactly, but that is part of what we know about Sulayman alayhi salam. In another verse of the Quran, I'm trying to tell you the stories because when you read the Quran, you will understand it. In another verse of the Quran, Sulayman said that I will sleep with 70 of my women, and every one of them will bring me a son that would fight for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is his intention, a very good intention. What was wrong with that? He did not say, with the will of Allah, that will happen. Insha'Allah. He did not say that. He said, my wives will bring me 70 young men that will fight for the sake of Allah. But he did not say, Insha'Allah, this will happen. With the will of Allah, this will happen. So he did sleep with these women. None of them got pregnant. Only one of them became pregnant and delivered a child that had no arms and no legs. And the child was taken to him and put on his throne. So he understood that that was a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not you who decides. It is not you who says what will happen. It is Allah. So whenever you want something to be done, say, I wish this will happen with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A punishment, a harsh punishment. But again, we're dealing with the greatest of prophets and the greatest of kings. And it's a lesson. Do not exceed your limit, Sulayman. Yes, you're the greatest king. Yes, you have the highest ability, but still it is within the limit of the powers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this in Surah Sad, verse number 34, in the chapter Sad, number 38. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and we did try Sulayman, test Sulayman. We placed on his throne a body, but he returned to us in true devotion. So he repented. He knew his limits. And he knew that his greatness is only with the will of Allah. So after that, he would never say anything without saying, with the will of Allah, inshallah. It's a lesson to him. It's a lesson to us. Never forget to say, God willing. He was also a very wise judge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, remember Dawood and Sulayman when they gave judgment in the matter of the field in which sheep of certain people strayed by night into it? This is in Surah Al-Anbiya, chapter 21, verse 78. What is the story? This takes us back at the time when Dawood, his father, was alive. And Dawood was the king. Sulayman at that time was only 12 years old. Two men came to take judgment from the judge and the prophet and the king, Dawood alayhi salam. What's the story? Two people who are neighbors. One of them raised sheep, the other one was a farmer. This man with sheep had huge number of sheep. The farmer had a great farm, excellent crops. And there was a wall between them, and there was a gate between these two walls. One night, the sheep herder neglected his responsibility, did not close the door after he got his sheep into his area, and the door was open. So at night, the sheep, all of them moved into the farm, and they ate in the farm. They destroyed the farm. They destroyed the ripe crops that the farmer had. So what is the judgment on this matter? Dawood alayhi salam, he said to the farmer, you destroyed the farm totally, it has of no value now, so he takes your sheep. Sulayman alayhi salam heard this, and he said, oh my father, O Prophet of Allah, I have a better idea. And he said, yes, my son. What is it? He said, we give the sheep to the farmer, and we give the farm to the sheep herder, and we give the sheep herder 1 year to restore the farm back to its original shape, bring the crops back, make sure that it is good again. And during that year, the farmer may use the sheep, slaughter whatever he needs out of them, use their milk, etc. But take care of them for 1 year also. And then after a year, if the farm is good, then the farmer takes back his farm because he is used to farming. He doesn't know how to raise sheep. And the sheep herder doesn't know how to farm, so he has to get help for 1 year. But after that, he cannot continue. So he goes back to what he knows best. So what do you think? He said, what a wise decision. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَفَهَّمْنَاهَا Sulayman. It was God that made Sulayman understand this solution and choose this wise solution. It was a better judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Sulayman, we inspired the right understanding of the matter. To each of them, we gave power to rule and gave them knowledge. This is in Al-Anbiya, chapter 21, verse 79. So it was not his own judgment, it came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the first judgment was not wrong, but the second one by Sulayman was much better. In another story, in authentic hadith narrated by both al-Bukhari and Muslim, and also found in the Old Testament, two women came to Sulayman, that was when he was the king, to judge between them. They both had a baby boy, but a wolf attacked and ate the son of the elder woman. So when she realized that her son was gone, she immediately claimed the other boy, the newly born. So nobody really could make a difference. It was not known exactly whose son was gone. So she claimed the child of the other lady. The younger woman, of course, wanted her son, but the other older woman insisted, that was my baby, it's not yours. So they took the matter to Sulayman alayhi salam. The story says that, in some stories, that they went to Dawood alayhi salam, and Dawood alayhi salam said to the younger woman, do you have any proof that this is your child? She said, no, except my word. So I cannot give it to you because you have no proof. And she claims that it is her son, and the son is with the older woman. So this is not yours. Sulayman requested the permission from his father to make a ruling, or if this had happened in his time, he made the following rule. He said, give me the child. And they gave him the boy. So he took a sword. He said, I will cut this child into two halves, and each of you will have one half of the child. So the younger woman immediately shouted and screamed, no, please don't. Give it to her. I don't want the half of the child. So Sulayman said, this is the mother, because she reacted immediately. And the mother cannot see her son being killed. So that emotions show that she was telling the truth. And he ordered the child to be given to his rightful mother, and he ruled against the older woman. So that was another story that shows the greatness of Sulayman alayhi salam. In another major story, Sulayman alayhi salam also moved his army, conquered lands. In chapter An-Naml, chapter number 27, he was marching into the land, and he was moving into the direction of the ants' farm, ants' place. So if the army reaches the farm, the houses of the ants will be destroyed. This is in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when they came to the valley of the ants, one of the ants said, oh, you ants, get into your houses, habitations, so that Sulayman and his soldiers would not crush you without knowing. The scholars say, what a wise ant. She warned her people. She gave them the solution, get into the houses deep, and told them why. So that Sulayman and his soldiers who are coming would not crush you. She was warning them. And she gave excuse to Sulayman and his soldiers. They are not doing it on purpose. They're doing it without knowing. Sulayman alayhi salam was able to hear her, and he ordered his army to move away from the houses of the ants. And he thanked Allah. Oh Allah, thank you for the ability that you have given me to understand even ants, so that I would not harm anyone. And he smiled when he heard her. This is an amazing ant that is knowledgeable. And he said, oh my Lord, order me so that I may be grateful to your favors that you have bestowed upon me and my parents. Order me that I may work the righteousness that will please you, and admit me by your grace to the ranks of the righteous servants of yours. So this shows also the ability of Sulayman alayhi salam to understand animals and understand even the insects.